I'm Beth Triffon.
I'm Kerry Henderson. I'm director of photography for the interviews.
I'm an actress in Los Angeles.
At the end of every interview, they ask everyone what they would like to be remembered for, which is a pretty epic question. And sometimes people are like really taken aback. And I think sometimes it's really cool. Like there's like a moment of levity where everyone sort of like sits there and thinks about their life for a second. And I feel like a really cool thing is a lot of times people will answer like, I just want to be remembered as like a great mother or a great father or a great sis, like, and they totally take it out of anything entertainment. And it's kind of really fun to watch people just be like, they stop being like, what am I in entertainment? And they're just like, what am I in life? And it's really cool. But like, what a crazy question to ask someone. It's also crazy, like I don't know where this is going, but just don't put it on the internet. It's also just really like crazy when you ask someone that's like 92 years old what they want to, and because you're sitting there being like, all right, well, they just got the question of what do they want to be remembered for, and like we might be posting this on the internet like 2 years from now of like, so it's a pretty wild question to have people answer at the end, and it's always been really cool to watch someone react to that. Favorite television show? What was your favorite television show?
I mean, my favorite television show growing up was Seinfeld. Even if I didn't quite really understand what was going on, I feel like it was just like kind of like watching like the building blocks of comedy and just knowing right away like, oh, like this ensemble is making something like pretty magical. And I also just like, began my like, obsession with Julia Louis-Dreyfus. So that was such a pillar show for me growing up. And then it just like, as I got older and started realizing more of like the jokes, I was like, oh, it's even better than I thought when I was 6,
It holds up.
Well, some of it holds up.
I feel like I have a lot of unpopular answers for this, but I watched Nickelodeon a lot. So I think one of my favorite shows is probably Wild and Crazy Kids. Which, why would you remember that show? No one would remember that show. I just remember it was like, they just like did races and contests. And I remember as a kid, they did one where they were like in a submarine in a pool, and it was like a pedal submarine. And I just remember being like, this is the coolest shit ever. Yeah. Like, what's cooler than that?
Yeah, you probably like saw the most random things you hadn't seen yet in rural Ohio.
Yep. And then other unpopular answer, I really liked on the History Channel. I loved the History Channel, and I loved Weapons of War.
Frightening.
I don't know. Well, obviously, being able to just sit in on a lot of the interviews and watch them, it's just really, really insightful information, and really the kind of depth that you don't get in a lot of places. And the interviews are so well researched that it leads people to speak on things really they just end up with really informed ways of talking about their lives in the industry. And then also, like as a cinematographer, there's some cinematography ones that are just so in depth, but in parts of cinematography that I have never been privy to, like multi-camera cinematography. We just did D. Morgan recently, and him talking about how they do multicam and how he's done multicam over the years is fascinating because it's totally different than other types of cinematography. And there's just like so many aspects of little things like that where you're like, there's no one else gave D. Morgan a couple hours to talk about what he does in that specificity. So
I think in the interviews that I've sat in and then the clips that I've seen, and even just the interview that we just saw tonight, I think the joy of the artist is like so contagious, and it really does go to show that I think so many people in this industry pursued what they loved. And I think it's so gratifying, especially as an artist who's maybe just starting out in whatever field in entertainment, because you don't choose to do that if you don't absolutely love it, if you don't have some sort of visceral feeling that you experienced at some point in your life that inspired you to do that. So I think when you have to deal with, the obstacles and hardships that this industry can throw you, it's very inspiring to see, like, we're all here because of the same little spark and the same little joy that got ignited at some point. And I think you so see that in the interviews, and it honestly, it makes you cry, it makes you laugh, and you're just like, kind of like, you feel like a kinship with everyone, which I think is something that God, not only this industry needs, but like just to have a kinship among other people. And I think the interviews really shows that, and that's what I've been able to connect to the most when I've either sat into them or seen them, Well, there was that one like 2 days before the COVID shutdown, or a couple days before the COVID shutdown, and I remember it sort of was like the last thing we did for a very long time.
Yeah, I mean, that was just tricky because you were just like, should we be doing this right now or not? But most challenging ones, I think, God, I can't think of a specific one. I think with these interviews, it can be tough sometimes. A couple of things can be tough. One is just like doing it in people's homes and trying to just respect that and do it well but quickly. We set up as quick as possible and then try not to take advantage of their time, So I think we've had a couple where we're like taking it, they're done and we need to like move along.
Their wife is like, hello.
Yeah.